So I was asked to give a demonstration of how Hagbah is done. I guess it's the kind of thing you see done, but never quite get an actual practical demonstration. So I hope to do that right now. Just so you know, Hagbah is a very important part of the service. According to some opinions, it's actually the most important part of the whole laning process. The person who gets different aliyahs is a tremendous honor, but the biggest honor is to give the Hagbah, because he's the one who's actually sharing the Torah with the congregation, right? That's what he's doing. He's picking up the Torah and showing it to the congregation, considered a very, very lofty opportunity. So how exactly is Hagbah done? So I'm going to go through some of the basics, also maybe give some tricks of the trade for those who are maybe more well versed. Maybe they'll learn a thing or two from this as well. So one of the first piece of advice when someone has Hagbah is to open up the Sefer Torah and take a look where he's at. So what he wants to do, here's the ideal. You want to open up around 3 columns, not more than that. You don't want to go too wide. There's sometimes you go to Hagbah or to Shul, the person opens up really, really wide, and there's a few drawbacks to that. You don't want to go too wide. Around 3 columns is plenty. And also what you want to do is get the seam in the middle. Now what I mean by a seam is, if you ever look at a Sefer Torah, you'll notice it's not one continuous parchment, it's a bunch of smaller parchments sewn together. And that seam where it's sewn, you want that to be in the middle. And the reason is because if, God forbid, when he's doing Hagbah, it rips, you want it to rip on the seam where it can simply be sewn together, which is very inexpensive, if you will, compared to ripping anywhere else. So anyway, so you open it up around 3 columns or so, and you also want to make sure that it's tight on the 2 sides. Very often, the person's about to do Hagbah, and the parchment's very, very loose. And when it's loose, when the parchment's loose, so you know what's going to happen as soon as he sits down, or even in the middle, the parchment will start to fall down, and that'll actually cause some distress to the Sefer Torah, to the parchment, as well as make it very complicated to try to catch the parchment from falling. So you want to kind of make sure it's tight before you start. Kind of give it a little tightening. Okay. Now the next step, if it's tight properly, all you want to do is simply slide off the edge. Okay. You want to slide it down a little bit. Okay, and then you want to bend the knees. Okay, the reason why you want to use your knees is because sometimes the Sefer Torah can actually be very heavy, and trying with your arms alone is not going to work. Tilt it downward, use the knees, and come straight up. That's a Hagbah right there. You're holding it tight. This is about as wide as you want it. The seam is in the middle, and now you want to share with the congregation. So you might want to do a circle. Some people do like a half circle, another half circle. Everyone gets a chance to see, right? And they get to say the Zos HaTorah, and then he sits down. Okay, so you notice the whole time it is tight. If when you're sliding it forward, you notice the parchment hitting the lip of the bima, that's usually an indication that it's not tight enough. Because if it was tight, there's no way that parchment's going to come in contact with the lip of the bima. Also, when you sit down, here's another very important rule, and here's another place where I see, sometimes people make a mistake. They sit down, they want to bring their arms together, right? So you're doing the Hagbah, you sit down, it's certainly more comfortable to start if you bring your arms together before the person doing the glila, the rolling, starts turning, so right away what's going to happen, it's going to get loose, and the parchment again is going to fall off of the wood. So what you want to do is keep it tight and roll only bring your hands together as it's being rolled gradually, as it's being rolled, so it stays tight the whole time, and keeps it together. So that's basically a very simple way to do Hagbah. That's another reason why, by the way, if you go too wide, right, it's very uncomfortable to hold it for very long. By the time you sit down, typically what happens is the person starts bringing his arms together naturally, prematurely, and then the parchment falls off the wood and then has to be picked back up. And then when it's always makes some complications. So again, keep it simple, keep it tight, hold it just like that, do the circle, sit down, keep your arms out so you're ready to keep it together, to be rolled together, and that hopefully should be a perfect Hagbah. I hope that was clear, and if you have any questions, obviously you can see me personally to discuss.